there, Meeple peoples. This is Mark from the Meeple Society, and together with Jessica, Katie, and Greg, we'd like to welcome you to another list of top 5. You know, the feeling always comes around in the new year where you get a feeling of reminiscence, where you look back at how your year compares to all the other ones before. And here at the Meeple Society, we go back to what games made us happy, because that's what we do, and what games fulfilled their promise to our players. So here we go, giving you our top 5 games of all time, 2023 version. Who wants to start this? Who wants to start this shindig off?
I guess I will. All right, so my top 5, or my number 5, I should say. My number 5 is actually going to be a bit of a surprise, I suspect. My number 5 of all time is, this is one we have had for a very, very long time now. We've played the heck out of it, but we still have not played all of the content we have. And Greg is really wondering. That was what I was hoping for.
Carcassonne?
No.
No.
Nope. My top 5 is actually Zombicide.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, we have a lot.
We have a lot of Zombicide. I don't know why. Okay, well, first let's do the basics. Of course, this is put out by Simon. Come on. I guess they go by
Cool
Come On.
Mini or Not.
Cool Mini
Whichever
or Not.
you would like.
This was the original version was put out in 2012. There have been numerous iterations and now a second edition altogether put out. Plays typically 1 to 6 players, though we have done it much larger than that in the past.
We went insane.
Yeah, we went a little insane on that one. So Zombicide is a cooperative game. There is dice rolling and grid placement and hand management. It's a modular board. And you're fighting zombies, so how can you go wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the concept is that zombies have taken over the world, and you are working as a team to meet the objectives of a specific scenario, whether it be to find food and water, whether it be to go rescue somebody, whether it be to go find the plans to get into the prison to get more weapons. Whatever the case may be for that specific scenario, there are hundreds of scenarios, both designed by the company and fan-based scenarios that have been put out for this game. And yes, they get samey, but I don't know. Anytime somebody mentions it, I want to play. And that's kind of how I put my whole list together, actually. I started looking around the room going, okay, if somebody said, do you want to play this right now? Would I say yes? And that was my top 5. But anyway,
that makes sense.
So Zombicide is my number 5.
Cool. Yeah, that surprised me. Okay, so my number 5 is the oldest game on my list.
Okay.
We played it 3 times. It's 2 to 6 players. It's from 1971.
Life?
No. This is London Cabbie.
Okay.
This has been in my top 100 every time I've done this.
You never even heard of this game till like 2 or 3 years ago.
Just recently, man, this thing has been popping in my head so many times saying, I need to get this back to the table. I want to play this game again. This is basically a pickup and delivery game.
Oh, yeah.
Where the board is the city of London. It has all the streets, whether they're one way or not, and they have little arrows showing you what direction each lane is going in. And the part of the game is you go to different locations to pick up fares, and when you pick up the fares, then you pick up another card that tells you where you have to take them, which is normally all the way on the other side of London.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you're good if it's just like right down the street, but you have to navigate by. You only have a certain amount of
you get 20 movements per turn.
And at a time, there's a way to get a second cab too, so you got 2 cabs working.
Yeah,
but you can only move it so far. But there are cards each round you're pulling out that could like put out a traffic jam someplace. Now you got to alter your route and go a different way to get around the traffic jam because it could be there for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're going around, you drop off your fare, you get paid, you pick up another location. I believe the winning of this game is a certain money.
It's a certain amount of money.
I don't know because I haven't won this game yet, but I love this game. And it surprised me. Like I said, I never knew it until Katie picked it up. You bought it on eBay or something like that?
I bought it off eBay. This was a game that we played. My sister and I played with my aunt for when we were kids. My aunt owned this, and we played the heck out of it one summer.
Mhm.
And it just kind of always sat in the back of my head, going, I wonder if I can find it.
Mhm.
And I did. And yeah, it sits up on the top
Yeah.
shelf with all of our older collectible games.
And this probably replaced Bruges in my top 5
Ooh.
because I think about
Wow.
more. I think more about this game now than I actually do Bruges. And like I
Wow.
said, the last couple weeks I've been
I am
really wanting to get this to the
shocked.
She
table.
is
So
shooked.
I know I do a shocker though. But yeah,
Good.
that is
I'll-
London
I'll-
Cabbie.
I'll give you money afterwards because I would have bet any amount of money.
Right?
Sweet.
No.
Pay up.
All right. So before I begin with my number 5, I'd like to kind of state off that I have a little bit of a bias against these kinds of lists simply because I really don't know from day to day how I'm going to feel and what games are going to grab me at that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So a lot of them kind of depend on my mood. A lot of games that I would never otherwise turn down, they just might not fit that particular mindset for that day, or they may be kind of long running and really comparatively difficult to get into our day. So I just want to point out that even though I've got my top 5 and everything like that, there's some caveats to that, and it's not saying that these games that are my top 5 are the ones that we are going to play the most.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So starting off with that, I'm going to start off with actually one of our largest games, at least up until say, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. We're starting big with Uwe Rosenberg's Viking Life magnum opus. That would be A Feast for Odin, in which you are growing your community of Scandinavian villagers through crafting and trading and hunting and raising animals and emigrating to other lands. This is the game that I use as my argument anytime anybody complains about, oh, there's not enough player agency in modern board games, because Feast for Odin comes with 61 different options to use for your worker placement.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So anytime anybody comes back with, oh, you just don't have enough choices in the game, just pull this out and say, look at this, you whiners.
Yes.
So you have all these arranged from left to right in one of 4 different columns, and each one costs you another worker to activate, but each of these powers are more progressively stronger and can offer you a lot more towards an end game. You have to make sure that you have enough food to feed all your workers. You are growing your community out and covering up negative point totals on your board. So basically you start off in the hole and you are trying to work your way up past 0. So that's a nice change to the usual. Yeah, we start at 0 and we're moving up to 100 and something like that. You might have a good game of this and only have 15 points at the end. So that's actually kind of a cool thing. The game is a long one, and there is quite a bit of pieces to kind of settle out and everything like that. Yeah. But every round, it feels like you are accomplishing something, and that's hard to match the feeling of accomplishment that you get as you plunder somewhere and you gain those huge treasures to cover up a nice big sized area of your board. Mm-hmm. It just feels like everything works together so well. That's it. It's just really hard to find other games that have that feeling of accomplishment like A Feast for Odin does when you get finished with it. So that is my number 4, A Feast for Odin.
Number 5.
5.
That's a 5.
5. Yeah. My number 5.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite Uwe games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
I get so stressed out when I play that game because there are so many places you have to cover up at the point, and I'm so worried. Like I'm not going to get so many. I'm going to lose points in this game.
One of the things I love about this game is that there are so many different things, but you can take those separate paths. Mm-hmm. You don't have to focus on everything like you do in some games. Mm-hmm. You can just like sit there and go, yeah, I just want to to do farm animals. That's all
Yeah.
I want to do. Or yeah, I just want to plunder. You know, you don't have to necessarily hype yourself up into being good at everything. And in fact, if you are trying to be good at everything, there's a good chance you are losing this game.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can play the game, and while you're obviously playing it with other people, it's almost like you're each playing your own separate games. You don't have to step on each other's toes.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and the big thing is, like, there is still a lot of player interaction in it, though, because if somebody takes your spot, you have to pivot and figure out what else you can do till that spot frees back up. Or you've got to spend an extra worker to take the next highest spot. And that's
right.
So there is still a lot of player interaction, even though you're really just working by yourself. So yeah, and I do like that.
My number 5 is HEXplore It, Marucci J Designs. I'm not sure that I can pick one of the HEXplore It series to call my favorite. Valley of the Dead King first came into the board game scene in 2017 with the classic Undead Hordes. Then the Forest of Adramon came next in 2019 with a Corrupted Fae. 2020 brought us the Sands of Shirax, and while the gameplay is quite different in this iteration, any media that boasts giant sandworms, Shah-Halud, graboids, or otherwise, I'm all for it. And yes, Dune fans, I probably just totally butchered that word. Sorry. The Domain of Mirza Noctis arrived in 2022, and though we haven't played this one enough for me to swear by it, this latest volume, set in the genre of kind of a gothic horror, just might be my favorite. These games have a nice tabletop RPG feel without the need for a game master. The only reason this game is not higher on my list is because it's a long game that is going to need more than a free afternoon to complete. It's sprawling. It's a big table hog. It's got an amazing presence. But yeah, I'm going to just say it. The HEXplore It series is my number 5.
The latest one is the one that has that side dungeon in it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I was like going, okay, that's
Interesting.
interesting because now when you go into a cave, you're actually going down to a dungeon, and it has another exit someplace on the board, which you have to unlock.
Yep.
And the caves all connect, and it's.
I thought that was really cool.
It is a really cool add-on, and I would have to stand by this too. This made my short list.
And coming up with 5 games, my all-time favorites was hard because I feel like, a lot like Mark mentioned, ask me what game I want to play, and that's going to kind of depend on how much sleep I've gotten, how much time I have.
Yes.
Who am I today? But in general, if you were to ask me, what's your favorite board game, or which games would I be the most excited to talk your ear off about, that helped me narrow it down. So they're not necessarily going to all be traditional, I guess, board games,
Right.
but they are the ones that I am the most excited about.
The ones that if they come off the shelf, I'm excited to sit down and play.
Yes.
Not the ones that like, okay, let me break out the rules again. I got to figure this out.
Yep.
These are the ones I could pull off the shelf and just dig right into because I've played them so often and I love them so much. I've remembered everything from them. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right.
Moving on to number 4.
Jess, you're number 4.
Oh, okay.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry.
Snake draft.
I don't do sports.
That's
Sports
okay.
are
Snake
hard.
draft. Snake draft is a board game mechanic.
Oh, it has draft in it.
Okay, yes, it's also how you do fantasy sports, but this is also
Oh, okay. My number 4 is Role Player Adventures from Thunderworks Games.
All right.
Yep.
The Adventure series was added to the realm of role player in 2021, and while it managed to keep all of the original elements to the Granddaddy role player game, it went whole hog into the tabletop RPG nostalgia. It has individual adventure modules and that managed to capture that sort of nostalgic late 70s, early 80s artwork feel on the front cover.
Yeah.
Each can be played in a single session, but have like an overarching story that they all relate to one another. But they're all part of a like much larger adventure. And these are another game that kind of give that old school tabletop RPG feeling, but again, you don't need a game master. So you know, you don't necessarily. Yes, normally one person will take control, you know, but they're still they're not. They don't know what's happening next. They get to be a part of this and take.
They get to read it, but that's
Yes.
all they're doing is reading what happens next. They don't actually know and are not controlling what happens next. So there's a big difference there.
It's not your forever DM.
Right. Right.
So I feel like so much thought went into this game. Just really trying to bring it in. They have their dice. The role player games have the best most colorful D6s ever. And so I feel like they just put so much work into it that I really hope that they continue to create this particular content. The role play table content. They have lots of games in the role player universe, but I'm hoping that they continue with this adventures content as they go forward, because it's really a great series. It's very exciting to be able to sit down and play something that feels like Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop roleplay game without actually having to break everything out for a session and all the planning and everything that goes into it.
Yeah.
A role player adventures is my number 4.
Yep. I think the design of the game is why we ended up picking it up.
Yeah.
When I looked at it, I was like, that's the old D&D dungeon.
The nostalgia factor
that looks so much
just
fun.
like,
I gotta have this game now.
Really
and the game is
is.
great.
We've played the first 3 sessions.
I think we played the first 3 and then it got put back on the shelf.
We need to get it back
We need to
out.
get it back out.
Yeah.
And with all due respect to the original artists in the late 70s and early 80s of Dungeons and Dragons, the role player adventures artwork is a step up, obviously.
Yes.
Phenomenal. It is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
all respect to the original artist of the genre, but the artwork on this is definitely an improvement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
just the fact that each adventure looks like one of the old
It does.
Dungeons
It
and
does.
Dragons games. It's like,
really
wow.
comes you with that,
Yep.
gives you that feeling.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
All righty.
All right.
So my official number 4,
Real this time, you
Not
guys.
your fake number 4.
not my fake number 4. Do I?
Anachrony. No.
No. My official number 4 is actually a pair of games, and this comes from 2015 and 2017, respectively. And this is just one game that I'm almost always happy to put out, and my wife is almost as happy for me to put out, because that means she gets to shift some blame to me, and that is Champions of Midgard and Valhalla. All right.
Okay.
And again, I'm couching these together because as much as I love Champions of Midgard, I feel like it's now it is an incomplete game without Valhalla attached to it.
Yes.
Have to agree. 100%.
So this was published by Grey Fox Games. So apparently I enjoy Viking games with worker placement mechanics. Who knew? Now, while A Feast for Odin focuses on the growth of the Northland territory through trade and farming prosperity and emigrating out and absorbing other lands, that sort of thing is abstracted. Champions of Midgard laughs at the idea that you will become a leader of a ragtag group of snarling warriors by raising pigs and growing peas. No, sir. If your sword arm is going to be extended in friendship, it's going to get cut off by that thick-browed guy with a battle scar running halfway down his face. And if you don't hold up your end in the battle because you're more interested in trading, do you know what that gets you? Shame. You
got to
pitiable
fight the troll.
You better.
In Champions of Midgard, although it is a similar worker placement motif, the whole goal is to become a warlord in the new Jarl by showing you can lead competently in battle and defeat fearsome mythological foes in your longships, because only the commanders with great glory are fit to lead this little community. Thank you very much. That means buying up soldiers, getting lots of dice for spears, swords, and axes, chucking them to see how successful you are in battle. And those poor soldiers will ultimately die horribly because they're not going up against little bunny rabbits and squirrels. No, they are going up against huge mythological beasts, trolls, and draugrs. And that's okay, because in the Valhalla expansion, which is really the best way to play Champions of Midgard, you get to utilize those poor sods after they've died. you get to bring them into your army in the afterlife to battle even more and bring you still more glory from beyond the grave. It's fun. It's bloody. It's given us more laugh out loud moments than most of the party games we've played. And that's why it is number 4 on my list of top 5 of all time.
Yep. Yeah, you have to have Valhalla in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So yeah, we've had fun with the Valhalla expansion in it, but just the base box, it would sit on the shelf if it was
For the longest time, we played Champions of Midgard straight up before we got Valhalla and before we got the Dark Mountains expansions, and we're all good with that. But since we've gotten Valhalla, it's like no. We have to be able to use those guys that we've thrown off to their death because
that's right.
because they went to fight the Draugr and they rolled crappy.
Yeah. No.
Yep.
And we did play the original game and we enjoyed it a lot, but we kept hearing, "Oh no, you've got to get Valhalla. That makes it so much better."
It does.
And it does.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's one of those situations where it's like, well, now that we've had Valhalla, we just can't go back.
Yes.
Okay. So my number 4, right? 4. Okay. It is probably the longest game on my list here from 2016. We've played it 4 times.
I know what it is.
Huh?
I can tell you what it is just from that description.
Is the Colonists.
Yeah.
This one made my short list.
This is an all-day game.
Yes.
No matter how many times you've played this, and if you've played this a lot of times, you've had a lot of spare time. Because this could take up to 8 hours to play. But you can
Mark's eyes just bugged out of his head.
You can play it in eras, but each era could take up to 2 hours.
Yes.
And this is it's a 1 to 4 player game. We've only played it 2. We don't dare play this with 3 or 4 players because it's long enough with just 2 players.
We can get it done in about 6 hours.
Tile placement in it because at the beginning of the round, whoever's the first player gets to put out the tiles of
You're
the little
building the
workshops
city,
that you can go to and in your city, and then during your turn, you're moving your guy around to pick up resources or to build buildings or to bring more workers or factories or what have you. To your little village to score points, and I mean it goes. It just goes like that. The whole game.
Yeah, the whole game is basically traveling around the city to pick up stuff and build stuff.
Yep.
Making sure you have people to work to work the different buildings that you're putting into your own little town. Yeah, it's a worker. No, it's not a worker placement.
Well, it is kind of a worker placement because you have your guy on that board moving it to pick the different.
Yeah, that's more of a. Anyway, it's a fun game.
Yeah.
It is
because you're building up your city, and then you've got to have workers to go to those areas to make those areas on your board actually.
You have to build out your farms and your houses and your apartments and stuff to get workers to man
the factories
and stuff that you're building. Otherwise, they don't do you any good. You can build all the factories and granaries you want. They don't produce if you don't have people to work them. So you have to be able to build your residential areas in order to get the people to work your commercial areas.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting take on it.
Bought this. We actually found it at a yard sale for like half price.
For like $40. Yeah.
For $40, and we played it, and it doesn't get pulled out that often. Like I said, we've played it
huge.
4 times. Yeah, we played it 4 times.
It's
a commitment. We figure it's an all-day thing, so we'll play an era, and then we'll get up and go do something, whether it's go get lunch or do some chores around the house or go shopping or whatever. Then come back and play another era, and then do the same thing. So it's definitely a long game. If you don't like long games, it's probably not for you.
Yeah. Agreed.
But
I like the fact that there are ways.
There's ways to save each era
in the rules where you can play a couple of eras, save it, set it aside, and come back to it later. Or you can start on eras 2 or 3, skip the early eras, skip the boring eras. It gives you a way to simulate that in setup so that you can start at era 3 if you want to and just play the last 2. So there are ways to manipulate that time a little bit. So anyway.
Okay. All right. So that's my number 4, The Colonists.
All right. My number 4 is one we've actually done a video on. All 4 of us, in fact.
Yeah, I'm staring at it, ain't I?
No.
Okay.
My number 4 is It's a Wonderful World.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yep.
Yep. Published by Le Boit de Joux and Lucky Duck Games in 2019, plays 1 to 5 players. This game has a card drafting, hand management, set collection, and among others. There's a lot of different mechanisms in this one. The concept of this one is that it's a drafting system. You are drafting your cards, picking the cards that ultimately you are either going to use to build down into your tableau, into your city, or you are going to use them for the resources they provide so that you can build other cards into your city. There's a couple things I really like about this. One, and I'm not big on card drafting, but I like the way that this gives you those options to try to build your hand to show, okay, I have this card that needs 2 golds and a silver and a blue, and now I need to find those.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find other cards that might provide that for you. But in the process, you find this card that provides you 2 blues, but that would give me a permanent something every round. Do I build that instead? And so it's a neat tug of war as to what you want to build and what you want to scrap for the parts. I like how that works. I love how the resource development works. So the resource, what's the word I'm looking for?
Management?
The what?
Management?
Resource management. Well, how they produce, the resource production. That's the word I was looking for.
There you go.
I love how the production works in the fact that you literally take it one step at a time. And as you gain the resources, you can immediately play them out. And if that enables you to finish something to put into your city that gives you resources later in the same round, then you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a neat way of trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to be getting so many of the, and I don't remember what each of the resources are called, but I'm going to be getting so many of the grays, and the grays will let me finish this off, and this will give me blues later down the road, and those blues will help me finish this off, and it'll give me golds. And
the whole engine build.
It is a very
really
big,
good.
yes. I love the way the engine just starts to roll.
And that's one of those games where right when your engine is just really maxing out and you're like, yeah, I've got this.
And the game is done.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's so frustrating. It's good. So I really, really like that one. But yes, that is my number 4. All right.
Cool.
And now number 3, remembering the snake draft this time.
Yep.
My number 3, again, we're having to do this old school.
Yep.
But okay, my number 3, this should come of no shock to at least Greg. My number 3 is Planet Unknown. This is a brand new game. We received it this
I
year.
figured it'd be higher.
Oh. There's a brand new game put out in 2022, received via Kickstarter this year from Adam's Apple Games. Plays 1 to 6 players. This game uses simultaneous actions, plays in roughly an hour and 15 minutes, no matter how many people are playing. It is the same time for 2 people as it is for 6, and I love that. We've played this now at 2-player, 4-player, 5-player. I don't think we've ever gotten a full 6-player game in yet, but I would be curious to do so. But all right, so this one involves simultaneous actions, tile placement, pattern building, tile drafting. There's a lot of different mechanisms again in this one. The big draw to this guy, the gimmick it uses, is a central Lazy Susan that all of your tiles are in. So there's 6 different depots full of 2 tiles each. So you've got 12 different options of tiles in the middle of the table. And each round, you are allowed to pick from 2. So whoever the start player is for that round chooses the tile they want, and then everybody else at the table is stuck with the tiles in front of them, and they have to make a choice from those 2 tiles to put someplace on their board. The boards are typical polyomino. The idea behind this one is that Earth has run out of resources, and we have to go off and start searching for other planets that we can do some research on and hopefully colonize. So you are looking for places where you can get access to water. You're looking for places you can set up colonies. You're looking for places you can set up energy resources, things like that. So there's 5 different sets of tiles that you are putting on the board. Meanwhile, not only are you placing polyominoes on your planet, and this one comes with a lot of options for the planets. There's so much variability in this game between the tiles, the Lazy Susan, you can literally change your sets because the middle section of it comes out and you can move it. But there's 9 different planet types, I believe, that you can choose from. There are corporations that you are also building up your techs on. So there are tech tracks to move up. So this game just has so much in it. And it is so easy to play. The rule set is so simple. We've taught this to a lot of people, and I have yet to hear anybody say they didn't enjoy it. So it is actually a very fun game.
Yeah, this is a game that has so much variability that you could play the same planet 8 times, 9 times. How many corporations are there?
I think there's 8 different
You can
corporations.
play a planet 8 times, the same planet, but play a different corporation. The game's completely different.
And your focus
all because of that
is
corporation
completely
and the way
different.
that corporation goes
So,
up the track.
Every
tracks.
planet has now there is a base planet, so everybody plays the same, and there is a base corporation. But there are also, on the flip side of every base planet is a customized planet, and they're all completely different. And every planet has its little idiosyncrasies, things you can't do. Like there's one that has a big hole right in the middle of the planet. You can't build anything on that hole. There's one that has this giant chasm going right through the center of the planet, and you can't cross the chasm in any way. You can't cross it with your rovers. You can't cross it with tiles. You cannot cross it. So you're literally playing on 2 sides of the board. So it's really interesting. There's just so many different options. And then the like I said, the corporations, again, all 8 of them are different. You have your base corporation, flip it over. Now you have 8 completely different corporations. So you can mix and match and play this game dozens of times and never play the same game. So it's
Lazy Susan does it for me. I haven't played it, but
oh my gosh, we're gonna have to play it sometime because this is absolutely, I absolutely love this game. But it is definitely one of my favorites. But yeah, my number 3, in fact. So that is again my number 3, Planet Unknown.
If I had to bet, I would have thought that was going to be your number 1. She does nothing but talk about this game.
I love this game. Yes.
Okay. My number 2 or 3. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead
3.
now.
Yep.
My number 3 game. 1, 2, 3. My number 3 game is a game when I first saw it on Kickstarter, I says, absolutely not. Then I seen it at JCon's, like on, okay, but no. Then I played it at the Dice Tower Retreat, and I said, oh, yeah, I really like this game, but no, I'm not going to own it. And I proved that because I didn't pick it off the gift exchange table when I had a chance to, and that is Foundations of Rome.
Never live this down, yes.
This game, it's really cool. I mean, have you ever played Acquire?
No.
Okay, so in this game, you have everybody has their own tray of buildings that are sitting in, and at the top of the board are cards that has a grid number on it, like D6 or E7 or what. It sounds like bingo now, but I guess it kind of has a bingo mechanism with that, though. But you're going to buy one of those cards, and it kind of has a little slide mechanism that if you take a card from the middle, the cards on the right move to the left. Just fill in, then you put a new card out.
All become cheaper.
So you're going to buy it for whatever the number is above it, and then you're going to put one of your markers on that grid space. And then when you have enough markers in an area that you could build a building that you want to get out, you take that building out and you put it down on that grid by taking your markers off. And now when you look down your tray, you're going to see symbols where that thing was at, where that building was at.
Yep.
So once all the error cards are played, because you're playing 3 errors, once all the error cards are played, you're going to score with all the open slots on in your tray, and it's going to tell you what your score, whether it's points, whether it's money. Money's a very good thing to have.
Money's hard to come
without
by.
money, you can't get these cards. We played this twice at
the retreat.
Retreat. I still don't want it because it's like between $144 to $270, depending on what kind.
I was going to say, I don't think I've seen it for under $400.
Yeah. Well, you could go to the Arcane Wonders website and buy it, depending on which one you want, between $144 to $270.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
It's definitely overproduced.
Yeah.
But the guy said, because I listened to an interview with the guys from Arcane Wonders, and he said to put this in retail, it's going to cost around $800
Oh yeah,
because of all the things that have to go in it. But they are working on just a regular cardboard polyomino game, which will work, but I don't think it won't be as thematic.
I think
No.
after having played with the buildings and
Yeah.
how detailed and beautiful those buildings are, overproduced, heavens yes,
Mhm.
but man, they are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely made the game feel really
Yeah,
thematic.
because it looks
to
really
me.
cool. Because when you're placing your buildings in, it's going to score depending on the different buildings from other players
Yeah.
or your players that are around it. And there's expansion for it. One of them is, what is it? The trading or stealing.
There's a couple modules. It's not so much expansions. There are modules in the base
That's
game
it.
that allow you to trade or steal from other
Yeah, 'cause
players.
you could-
that
You
we
can have an
only
area
played
that
the
you're setting
one.
up. It's like, okay, I just need one more thing right there, and I could put my big 6 square piece out there. No problem. Somebody comes in and just hands you a coin and says, nope, I'm taking that one spot from you because I'm going to build this building there now. I'm like, what? That's how my second game went. I had probably maybe 4 boards, and the other 3 people who were playing with us, Katie included, just had these huge cities out there, and I had this little village. There's like a building over here and a building over there, and a couple of markers down here that's not big enough for a building. Yeah, I kept getting stolen. My area is stolen from. I kept getting money, but
Yeah, it's a fun game. I enjoy
there's
it.
hate drafting in this game too, because you could buy a card somebody really needs, and you just hold on to it, so they can't build the building they want.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I think if we ever get another chance, I would love to own it, but at the same time,
If
I
we
don't
can
know
get
that
it
I
for
want to
free.
store it.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
we've
a
already
huge
passed
box.
that ship's already sailed, so
Yes,
I'll never hear the end of it from.
It's
from
his
Jeff.
goblin market.
it is absolutely.
But yeah, that's Foundations of Rome, my number 3.
All right.
Okay. So now we're hitting my top 3, which means something that you will see really quickly about my top games of all time is that, namely, when I sit down to the table to play, I want to be taken on an entertaining and dangerous adventure. I want to be transported. I want to lose myself in a theme and a storyline and a series of events. And if I can do that, I'm more than willing to forgive a little bit of fiddliness in the gameplay, or that not every rule is perfectly spelled out in the rule book and that you have to make, judgment calls here and there. And that brings us to my number 3, which is Folklore the Affliction. All right. Folklore the Affliction ticks like every one of those boxes. It's an expandable horror fantasy RPG board game that is really pretty much the closest RPG experience that you can get while still staying in a box. It focuses on an immersive storyline, strategic combat, character development, and intense character customization elements. You get to play one of 6 customizable and unique character types in a quest to gain lore by conquering the supernatural afflictions feeding off the land and the people. It's definitely it's got that gothic horror feel that Jess talked about in Domain of Murs and Noctis. As you travel the land, you'll move from an overland map where you're basically keeping tabs on, okay, I'm moving from city to city, or I'm in this wilderness area, to where, and during that, you'll get random encounters like you would in an RPG, and sometimes skirmishes, so they actually have like a separate battle system for when you're fighting in overland, as opposed to when you get to an area, you'll actually pull out these tiles and it becomes more of a miniature based dungeon crawl type element. So you kind of get 2 games in one in that. You've got your overland travel where you have little story elements and everything like that. And then you get into these other areas where you get your more dungeon crawl feel. It becomes more tactically based. And throughout the scenario, the storylines always seem to stay gripping. They're really well written. You are continuing as you go to try to send all these evil denizens back to the hell from which it came, even if you die in the attempt, because you can actually play as a ghost in this once you've died off, which inevitably you're going to do. The art is very glorious, it's lovely, and it's a little bit disturbing. The game is very RPG-esque. The combat is brutal and swingy and done with dice the way the powers that be surely intended combat should have been done. In fact, I would suggest this to RPG players first and foremost. If they're getting into the board game hobby and they want to find something that kind of meshes that RPG and board game element, this is the direction to go. And then I would, above and beyond that, I would suggest it to anyone who's like looking for a few hours of escapism with a really thrilling story. I feel like Folklore the Affliction, which now has 3 boxes, the standard one, Dark Tales, and Tales from the Spire, Fall of the Spire. It's got 3 boxes. Each of them are basically playable on their own. So that's my number 3, Folklore the Affliction.
Yeah, this. Go ahead, Jess.
With the characters, you have regular standees, and then you have ghost standees, and you can get the minis too.
Yeah.
But we have the standees, and
yeah,
I think it's cute that if you die, you have your own little ghost standee.
Yep. Zombicide does that same thing. If you die, you become a zombie.
Yeah. This is when
So,
you talked about back on one of the podcasts. I don't remember what one, but it was back a ways.
Yeah.
And you said that if you died, you became a ghost. Like, ooh, okay.
Yep.
And it definitely, the way you explained it, it was basically a role-playing game, which isn't bad. I mean, we were all 4 of us were role players.
Yeah.
For many, many years.
But as we've gotten into games, it's kind of like, ooh, what is that kind of game now? I've gotten away from the role-playing games, but this was one that would bring me back. And
Yeah.
when I want to play, I haven't played, but yeah. From your description of the game, I definitely want to play this.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I feel like as role players, you have a leg up because there is a very RPG-ish element to it. A lot of people who have played nothing but board games, they're like strictly, this is how the rules are. And Folklore does that, but by the same token, there are areas where you sit there and go, okay, this rule isn't specifically covered, or I may have to make a judgment call based on stuff. RPGers are more, especially people who have ran RPG games, they're more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have quite that stricture and everything like that. But we both like this quite a lot. We have to play it double-handed, where we've got a third character that we run because neither one of us wanted to play a healer.
He plays an exorcist.
Yeah.
So we each played characters that we thought were fun, and then we have like this third character that we both controlled. Is it Bob the Exorcist?
Bob the Exorcist.
Bob the Exorcist.
He's just kind of there for us to yell at.
So,
but it is a very, very fun game.
Cool.
So my number 3 is Destinies from Lucky Duck Games. Lucky Duck Games was likely not the first company to create an app-assisted board game, but in my opinion, they've done it the best. Destinies hit shelves and our table in 2021 with its moody ambience and this fantastical world of a medieval European setting. You might face a werewolf or you could summon an angel. The app aids in the RPG experience without the game master. We're back at that again, which is indeed a reoccurring theme in my list. Yes, because most people want to play and not be saddled with the forever DM moniker. Destinies would have been much higher on this list, but that medieval European thing does more than offer the threat of plagues, witches, and devils. It means that there are not as many female playable characters in each scenario. So far, I believe I've played a nun, a witch, and an ambitious but underhanded wife. These are all perfectly reasonable for the time period. I'm not, holding this against them. But you look through all like the pack of different playable characters, because when you go to play a scenario in Destinies, which you can play in an afternoon, which makes this another highly attractive feature to this game. But you look through the stack of cards, there are female characters. However, when you go to play a scenario, they give you 3 characters to choose from?
That's correct.
And sometimes you may not even get a female character to choose from because that's not what went with the storyline.
Mhm.
And I like to play girls. I can't help it. But so again, I'm not holding it against him. It's the time period. I get it. So far, that's been my only kind of bummer with the game is the fact that you are really saddled with only choosing one of those three characters to play. And I think it's only like a 1 to 3 person game
It is.
anyway.
That
So
is
I
correct.
mean, it's I don't know. Unless you play a Bound by Fate, I think.
Yeah, Bound by Fate allows you to play 2 versus 2.
So it's basically you could do 4 people because you guys would be on teams.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
I don't know. Destinies is just a lot of fun. It's the app also has this nice ambiance music that kind of plays in the background. People weeping, fire popping,
Yep.
things like that. Depending
People
on the
coughing.
situation, people coughing, like if you're like in like the sick
hospital.
tent, the
Yeah,
hospital type place.
Jeez. Okay.
I don't know. I know that there's like that overhanging kind of like apocalyptic feel of, oh, but what happens, when the company goes defunct, or what happens when they stop supporting the apps.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, and that's why we're not going to save our app assisted games for retirement when our eyesight's gone and we can't figure out how to work this darn device anyway. So, because we're not going to retire until we're ancient. So it's I don't know. For now, for the here and now, I absolutely love the app assisted games because they just they give so much of that adventure without demanding that one person has to control everything and know all the secrets.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. I love what app assisted games have done for the storytelling genre, especially where I mean, you look at a game like, say, Seventh Continent, for instance, where you have like a huge deck of cards that is leading you through this. All of that is self-contained within the app. You go to this place, it tells you what's there. So it's the same basic thing. The only difference is basically you don't have to hold a huge stack of cards and surf through them to figure out, or a booklet where you have to go to, paragraph 104 or something like that. It
makes the games easier to get to the table too. Much easier.
Absolutely.
Like he mentions Folklore the Affliction. That's a great game, but it takes a lot more to get to the table. Same thing with the HEXplore It games. It takes a lot more to get to the table because you don't have the app assistance. So I'll play either game. It just depends on how much time I have.
Yeah. I've come to realize with the app assisted games, they're not as bad as I think they are, because it lets a role player get back in the game and not have to actually have somebody playing everything else.
Yeah.
Which I think, what was it? Mansions of Madness did it first, was it? Did they do the app assisted first?
Yeah, their original game did not have an app. You had to have a GM.
Yeah. But now with these app assisted games, I mean, once you play all the scenarios for it, you can sell it and let somebody else have the problem if the
this
app
isn't
stops
like
being supported.
Yeah.
Have your money out of it.
This isn't like a legacy game or whatever where you've opened envelopes or maybe have torn pieces or altered things.
Yeah.
They just gotta download the app and go
Play the scenario and then move on, because once you played it, you probably won't play that scenario again. You already know what's going to happen.
Yeah, most likely.
Once you play through the game and its expansions, as long as it stops making expansions, then you could just send it on its way and let somebody else enjoy it.
And he mentions, they out of a game he wants adventure, and he doesn't feel like he can get that from a card game and things. And I respect that. And again, a lot of our games are going to have that in common.
Yeah,
our backgrounds are in role playing, tabletop role playing games. Words are hard.
Yeah, that's 10 times fast.
And I feel like, these sort of games bring it. And I like card games. I love polydomino games. I will Tetris Queen my dishwasher and silver and gold. But I like my adventure games. I like my escapism.
Yeah.
And Destinies is my number 3. Number 2, My number 2 is Sea of Legends from Guildhall Studios. A lot of pirate games have come out over the years. And while quite a few of them have been fantastic, 2021 also gave us Sea of Legends from Guildhall Studios.
Mm-hmm.
This game is another app-based device.
Oh no.
It's a story-driven game that, in my opinion, offers the highest replay value out of all of my picks today. There's a vast number of lovers and nemesis that can be chosen from, as well as multiple AI-controlled enemies that can be used in different combinations. You always have your Spanish galleon,
Spanish Armada.
your Spanish Armada, and then you get to choose 2 other factions to go up against. These features change up all the different storylines, and goals, including possible abilities that can modify dice rolls and events. So your lover is going to give you boons, certain boons, different depending on who you choose. Your nemesis is going to offer you certain disabilities, different upon who you choose. Some enemies offer different game mechanics. Like, we had one, the last one we played was pick up and deliver. One of the enemies, you had to pick up and deliver, pick up and keep away. I don't know, but
it didn't matter. She kicked our butts.
She stopped the floor with us. Anyway, it's all around. It's fun. It's quirky.
Yeah.
I really enjoy my time playing. I get super excited whenever I play it. It's our Valentine's Day. It's our Valentine's Day game, not gift. It's just the game that it's like it's Valentine's Day. Oh, time to play Sea of Legends. You have different adventures, stories. Like, okay, you're playing this character and you've chose this lover, so now you've got your lover adventure. You're playing this character and that's your nemesis, so that's your nemesis adventure, and then you just have your own overreaching adventure. Meanwhile, you've got these factions of baddies running around. You're trying to get the most notoriety before they've completed their
tasks,
whatever goal they've got in mind. But yeah, I always get super excited to play this game. So my number 2 is Sea of Legends.
Now, this was another short list one for me. So going along with that, my number 2 is going to tick people off too, because it's also Destinies.
So everything Jessica just said.
Yep, pretty much everything
that
Jeff said about Destinies. That's my number 2. My big thing, one of the things that grabs me about it is I love the experience system. You're rolling dice. Your player board has got 3 stats. I want to say it's like strength, intelligence, and dexterity, but it's not really those. You have little white chits that you put into this thing, and basically you're trying to roll, and based on what you roll, you tell the app how many successes you get. Well, throughout the game, you can use experience, and there will be certain points in the game where it'll tell you you can upgrade some of these stats. So that means you get to decide, am I moving, like, say, I have successes on, say, 6, 8, 9, and 12. Do I move that 6 down so that almost every time I do a challenge, I'm going to hit at least 1? Or do I pull that 12 down so there's a better chance I can get more successes with, lower numbers? It's got a really good system for that, and I like that a lot.
It's very different, and if that doesn't make sense, it would take a while to try to explain it. But it is I don't know, it's really neat. It's
it gives a nice RPG feel too. That's something that you might see in a regular RPG type game. But at any rate, that's my number 2 as well, Destinies. I've been a big fan of this ever since it came out, and the fact that there is more coming out. Destinies Witchwood is due. The Dark Quarter, which they're doing with Van Ryder Games, is probably going to utilize some kind of this system. That's all good with me. Bring me all the Destinies stories, because right now they're just knocking it out of the park with what they've done.
All right.
My number 2 is also a new game from this year, and I thought would be higher on Katie's list. It is a crossover, and that's Planet Unknown. Pretty much everything she explained already. I mean,
when it's good, it's good.
It's probably the one polyomino game that comes out that I don't mind playing. because it has all the tech trees.
And
that I
he
can
beats me
go
quite
up on.
often.
Yes, and I actually beat her a lot. with
Although
this
we
game.
found proof on the video we did that he forgets to put asteroids. So all of his wins have big old asterisk marks on them now
Mhm.
because he's not putting asteroids when he should be.
Nope.
That's the one problem with simultaneous
What
play.
you
is I
don't see
can't
is at the beginning of
monitor.
the game, like put this planet shield,
You
around my
monster.
planet, kind of like the ArcNet and
Uh-huh.
Men in Black.
Okay.
And it just sometimes they get through, sometimes they don't. So
Okay.
I'm just smart that way.
Sure.
But anyway, yes, Planet Unknown is my number 2, so I don't think we have to continue to go on because, like you said, everything you said is pretty much.
No,
it.
let's
You
hear
can
more
like
about
it.
how Greg forgets to put asteroids out.
Right. I actually had somebody comment that in one of the videos. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. So I went back and looked. I'm like, yep, sure enough.
There was like 3 in that game that I forgot to put out.
And that would have made a difference of like 8 points at the end of the game, potentially.
Dun, dun, dun.
I still beat you by a lot
You
usually.
did not.
I still
Okay.
beat her by a lot.
Regardless.
Anyway, so
Big
your
old
number 2?
asterisks on his wins.
Your number 2? What's your number 2?
All right, my number 2. Now I have claimed that this is one of my favorite games since we got it. We don't play it very often because it is a long game and a bear to get to the table, but I love it anyway. It is Terraforming Mars by
Yes.
Stronghold
Yep.
Game. I've always said this is one of my favorites, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
All right, so Terraforming Mars by Stronghold Games was originally published in 2016, plays 1 to 5 players. It has had numerous expansions. Again, this is one of those rabbit hole of expansions situations.
Well, they've stopped.
They finally stopped because they've put out the deluxe edition, and now there's Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, and now there's supposed to be a roll and write or a dice game coming out, I think, and I
Mhm.
draw the line right there.
Yep.
We got the deluxe edition. I love the little caps that go, the domes that go over your cities. I love it.
Mhm.
But it is harder to get to the table because it is a lot of stuff. But they did a pretty good job with the box design on this one. I like Ares Expedition. It takes the game and shrinks it down some, but at the same time, I just want good old-fashioned Terraforming Mars
Mhm.
with the planet bubbles and the 3D molds and all the stuff that came with the deluxe edition. All right, so with Terraforming Mars, it is a card drafting, hand management type of game. You are doing set collection you're trying to match up icons to get bigger bonuses. Meanwhile, you're using your cards to build cities or greenery out onto the planet, hopefully some water out onto the planet. The ultimate goal is everybody's working together in one aspect. The game is not cooperative, but you're working together to get the temperature and the oxygen levels up on the planet, and that is ultimately the game end trigger when both of those reach the end of their tracks. And when you have enough water on the planet, because you have to have enough water on the planet to support life before you can end the game as well. So very interesting in the fact that even though it is completely competitive, you have that little bitty cooperative note. But at the same time, certain levels of progression get bonuses. So you don't want to get to right before it unless you can get to that extra bonus because your opponent will take it from you.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I really like this game. I love the engine building. I like the way the cards play off each other, and you can choose certain things to do and others not. That you have to pay for your cards to begin with, so you've got to be careful about money. Money is not. I mean, it's not hard to come by in this game, but it's not super easy either.
Mhm.
So it's not unlimited, but. Anyway, that has always been one of my favorites. Like I said, we don't get it to the table very often, but because it is a longer, it can be a 3+ hour game easily, and it is a table hog.
Oh yeah.
But nonetheless, it is one of my favorites. That is Terraforming Mars.
It's okay.
Oh,
Again, I'm shooked. I'm
Okay.
shocked
That it's not number 1.
that it was on there. I'm
Oh.
absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
oh.
Shocked.
Shocked, she says.
All right. Well, my number 1. Can you guess what my number 1 is? You probably have
No,
clue
because
at
I
this
thought
point.
Planet Unknown was going to be your number 1.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think here what it would be that we.
Grand
Is it
Carnival.
a recent one?
Isle of Cats.
No, ironically, Isle of Cats did not make the cut.
Woo!
It would have been probably in my top 10, 11, but not in my
Is
top
it the newer
5.
one we got?
We've had it for about a year, year and a half. We have an expansion already.
How
Newsfjord.
many games we got in a
No, I
year
don't
and a
have
year,
that
year to a year and a half ago?
Okay.
I have no idea then.
No, it won't be a surprise. All right. My number 1 is Underwater Cities.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So this is by Delicious Games, published in 2018. It plays 1 to 4 players. It is a worker placement, hand management, network and route building, among others. But those are the primary mechanics to it. In Underwater Cities, now you're playing cards out into certain areas that if you can match the card color with the area color, you're getting bonuses from it.
You get the
and
bonus that's
cards
on that area plus the bonus
goes
that's
on
on
the
your
card. Yeah. So that's how you're building all your stuff. You are building out your cities, you're building out little modules around the cities, and now you have to connect your cities using underwater bridges. I just think it's a fascinating game. And we bought the expansion solely because it had the dual layer boards. So now everything sits really nicely and doesn't scatter
Yep.
across the board when the cat jumps up on the table, because that's never happened. So
I am not touching that one with the available 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. It's just always been one of my favorites. And maybe it's that we don't get it to the table as often as I would like. But for now, it's one of those that if somebody said, hey, you want to play this game? Yeah, set it up. Let's go.
To be fair, I can knock things off of the board games with my hair.
That's okay, but you don't jump onto the table.
Not normally, no.
Usually not.
Usually not.
Not during a game.
Well, that's good. Good to know.
But yeah, they dubbed this as the underwater version of Terraforming
Terraforming
Mars.
Mars. Yeah, they did actually.
Jeez, I
That
wonder why
makes
she likes it so
total
much.
sense.
She likes
now.
what she likes.
Hey,
Yep, I guess.
that's what it is.
Yep, this is again for me. It's okay. I will play it.
And hence why we don't get it to the table very often.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So my number 2, apparently we get to the table a lot because we played it
Number
13
2?
times.
We've already
Number
played.
1?
You've already talked about. You've already agreed with me.
Oh,
on
yes.
Planet
Number
Counting is
1.
hard.
Yes.
Yes, it is. When you get older,
Math.
it's hard.
Ugh.
Okay, so we played my number 1 already. We played it 13 times.
Okay.
It's from 2013. This is my all-time favorite pick-up and delivery game, and that's
Ow.
Firefly, the game. And it's exactly what it is. It's pick-up and delivery. But I think people take Star Wars Outer Rim and say it's the replacement for Firefly, but I don't think Star Wars The Outer
We've
Rim
only
is
played Outer Rim
as
once.
thematic.
Yeah, we've only played it once, and
Yeah.
I think we need to do it.
Yeah, I
dive
felt Outer
into that
Rim
one
it
more.
was too confining
Maybe.
because you had like 2 trails you could go on, and if both are blocked, you're screwed. Especially if you're not right with those people. Well, I
Yeah.
guess it's a different phrase in that one though. But in Firefly, you've got the whole board. I mean, it's a table hog.
It is.
But you
a
got this
table
huge
hog.
board that you can fly around. The Reavers and what is his name? What the bad guys in Firefly?
I can't remember the name now.
The
Anyway.
military. Anyway, you can get around those a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's
than you
easier
can
to avoid
in Outer
them,
Rim.
but yet you still have that constant threat of the Reavers breathing
Yeah,
down your
But I
neck.
like how you could
So.
go to ports and get hire crew, different places
Yeah.
to the characters in the TV show /
Mhm.
movie, and
Yeah.
get jobs from them and have to fly across the universe to
Yeah.
get them done. When you get there, you've got to do certain things just to be able to deliver it.
So yeah, you've got to build up your
Mm-hmm.
strength and your knowledge and your influence, and because you need all of those items, and you can only get them by hiring your crew.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to hire a very diverse crew.
Mm-hmm.
You can't focus all on guns, so
Yeah.
you're not going to get very
Yeah,
far.
because each job's going to take certain resources
Yes.
like guns or
or
knowledge,
mechanics or knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you go to do a job, you have to announce, okay, I'm taking these 3 people with me to do this job. So I have the stuff I need for it. But then once the job's over, you have to give them their cut of the money.
You
that
actually
you're
have to
making.
pay them.
So you get that less.
Mm.
And then it's a certain, depending on what scenario it is, it's usually the
Well,
amount of money you have.
And then there's the misbehaving cards, and
Yes.
there's a lot of jobs that have misbehaving cards in them, which
Yeah.
is very thematic for the show and
Mhm.
the movie. But you don't know what you need because you got to pull a card, and that tells you. So it's
Mhm.
complete luck of the draw.
Yeah,
and
it could say you need like 6
Yeah.
guns. If you don't have 6 guns, you either disgruntle your crew,
you
the ones
fail
that
the
went with
mission,
you,
yeah.
or
So-
they die.
So it's
So
it's
it's
very
like-
interesting.
Now I've got to go hire a whole new crew to be able to do this job.
At the same time, it is also a very long and a big table hog.
Yeah,
There's, I would not be afraid to say 24 stacks of cards, 24
Oh,
decks
wow.
of cards.
well,
in this game.
each place you can go has its stack of cards.
Yeah, and some of them have 2 because you've
Mhm.
got both job cards and
Yeah.
equipment cards,
And then
Yep.
you have
There's a lot.
movement cards because
Mhm.
you have a certain amount of movement pinned on your ship and your hyperdrive,
Mhm.
but you're drawing. The areas are divided out as in if you're in the middle, you're drawing from one pile. If you're out in the red where the reavers are at, you're drawing from the reaver pile, and different things are going to happen as you draw these cards. So.
We actually bought to help set up in this game. We bought ourselves some business card holder racks that hold 6 business cards, 6
Mhm.
sets of business cards, and each set is like holds 3 decks of cards. Each one of the sets, you got your deck of cards and your discard pile for
Mhm.
each one of the.
Nice.
It helps with
Yeah,
setup.
so when we set it up
immensely.
on the table, it looks like it's a stadium with these
Yeah.
grandstands around it, full of cards all the way around it. So,
yes,
yep,
yes.
that is my favorite game of all time.
I'm not. I
And
should not be
apparently
surprised
we
by
played
that
it 13
whatsoever.
I am
times.
surprised. I was expecting Bruges.
I am still shocked that London Cabbie beat out Bruges. How
Yeah.
does that happen?
Yep.
I don't know. It's just I've been really thinking about that game a lot. I don't know why.
We need to
but-
pull that and take that over to Justin.
Cult
and
of
Justin
the
and Jack can play it
New.
with us. Oh
That's
yeah, it was published in
1971.
1971.
Well, yeah, but you guys just got it now, didn't you?
No, we've
We've
had
had it
it
for a
for
little
probably 3 or 4 years now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And like I said, I played it as a kid. That's
Mhm.
why I went hunting for it. Actually, we've probably had it longer than that now. We've probably had it for quite some time. It was one of those that I went hunting for.
We got early
Early
in
on.
our
Mhm.
collection. So
Yeah.
okay,
So-
so that is my number 1 Firefly the
Alrighty.
board game.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, my number 1, and everybody try to be surprised by this, is a dungeon crawl adventure type game. This is Middara, Unintentional Malum Act 1, published in 2019 by Succubus Publishing. It is a dungeon crawl adventure game with an unapologetically Japanese RPG video game type feel. And it is the first game that made me feel like maybe there actually could be a co-op game that involves an in-depth story, likable characters, enjoyable and robust upgrading system, and real hardcore dice chucking for combat. The characters are not these hideous no-name insert base archetype here. These are actual characters with specific looks, backstories, stories, personalities, and feelings, and you actually get that throughout the entirety of the narrative. The tiles for this game are well constructed, really nice, have UV coating to them for like some of the water. It's really a very pretty game, even though it is quite a table hog. Even our gaming table, we have to do some modifications here and there to actually get the entire thing on. There are a lot of nice, not your standard RPG type creatures. There's a lot of status effects that help and hinder your heroes. And hopefully there's a lot more of both coming with Acts 2 and 3, which are now currently in production. There are a few dungeon crawlers that we've run into that give you the depth and breadth of storyline and narrative that Middara does. The actual storyline book is like over 400 pages long. And the thing is, and they've got it set up where like you can actually connect to Foreteller so that it can play through it can actually audio play your narrative, so you don't have to just read it aloud to all your players, which I think is really cool. You may actually like complete a couple rooms of your dungeon crawl and then have like a pause of 10-15 minutes where you are like following along the ongoing story narrative, listening to what's happening to some of your characters, some of the conversations and such they're having, which is it is really cool. this is a real story, in-depth story. It's not just a tacked on theme that's thrown on after they've gotten all the combat done. You can tell that the story was first and the combat was just kind of meshed together, as opposed to, okay, we've got our mechanics down and everything like that. Now let's kind of shoehorn a story onto it. It's very very, very well done. It's got upgradable dice. It's got like really all the things in a dungeon type crawl adventure that I'm looking for in a game. Would I be happier if it was like straight up high fantasy? Probably so, but I will take this in a country minute. This is great. This is like one of my favorite games of all time.
It's got some very adult themes. The characters are, they're we don't know where their armor class is always coming from for some of the girls.
Some of the guys for that matter.
Some of the guys for that matter. So I mean, this is not a game that I'd like, break out for the whole family. It's just like an anime. No.
Oh.
It
is just not family friendly anime
like
sometimes.
It's a fantasy sci-fi mesh, so there's like technology and some of the characters have had like a tail or wings grafted onto their bodies or something. I don't remember exactly how that happened, but it is colorful and it is so adjustable. Like you go into the marketplace to buy stuff and it's just there's levels to even the items that you can purchase. So, I mean, we've put 8 hours into it.
Oh, longer than that.
And I think we may have gone through like a fifth of it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the first box. 2 and 3 are out there right now being made with the same tenacity that the first one was made with. And it is an amazing game. But I just really want to put a disclaimer on it that, if you tend to touch your pearls, then this may not be the game for you. But it is a fantastic game. And I was 100% like, you've got to get 2 and 3. So I don't own pearls. My number 1 is, I want everybody to be really, really shocked. Ready? It's Chronicles of Crime from Lucky Duck Games. Apparently, Lucky Duck Games owns me right now.
It sounds that way.
Oh, you own a lot of stock in Lucky Duck.
I want that
If you
kickback,
don't,
y'all.
you should.
We're back to another Lucky Duck game. And this one is from 2018. And again, I'm not going to say that Lucky Duck invented the app-driven board game, but they certainly know how to work it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chronicles of Crime is a great series of games, from the original through their Noir and nostalgic 80s set, straight through to their Millennium series. Each iteration changes up the mechanics just a bit, but the app is there to support you through it all. Like all parents, I do not have a favorite child, but in this case, I think I'm partial to the first of the series. It's just the one I'm most familiar with. We've played the other ones, but the original, I feel like there's just something to it. I'm a big fan of detective games, and this one really hits it home for me. There are plenty of detective games out there, and a lot of them are actually really fantastic. But Chronicles of Crime is a game that I know that I can get to the table, play in a single afternoon with time to spare, and not feel as though I've had to make impossible leaps in logic to get to the end. And there are plenty of fan-made scenarios available to download that use the core components. You can make your own even. Overall, this is one of my top go-to games for the simplicity, gameplay, and how easily the game flows. It's just, I don't know, it's just a really easy game. It makes me feel like I've accomplished something. And I don't feel like it's hard to get out. You get out, you lay it out, you do your thing, and then you can stuff it all back into the box and call it a day.
It is very easy to break out and play and put away. I will give it that.
Katie's brain doesn't work well with this game.
Don't work well with
her
these types
brain
of
in this game
games.
works as good as well as my brain in Turing Machine.
No, we
it
won't even go
doesn't.
there.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
no, this one,
But, yeah. She's not a big fan of it. I like it.
Mhm.
I
No,
really
no.
like. I really like Red View.
I like it
Yes.
for what it
It's-
is.
that's an
Red
awesome
View
one.
was a blast.
Red View was fun. We need to
Okay,
get together
so-
and play Red View.
Yeah,
I was gonna
Red
say
View
if
was
you guys
hysterical.
liked Red View, I feel like you would very much like Destinies, because I feel like Red View is kind of like proto Destinies, except for it's not it's not in the Chronicles of Crime universe. It's more
Mhm.
like, but you are actually doing you're actually doing some of your skill checks and everything like that, almost in the same kind of manner.
Oh,
Red View
I like
has
Red
that
View. It has
nostalgic
that
80s.
Yes, it
Yes.
has that
Yes.
nostalgic 80s. If you're not home by 10 o'clock, you are grounded. And let me tell
You're
you,
in trouble.
we
Yeah.
got grounded.
Oh yeah.
It
So-
was great.
So I
I
think
think that's what made it funny.
Red View kind of brings that to the group too.
It
And
does.
Mhm.
most
And-
of us were kids or teens
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we played it at the cabin with some friends who are all about our age.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we laughed so hard during this one because of getting in trouble with the principal and the principal calling our moms. And it's
Yep.
like, oh, you've got to be kidding
Yep.
me. It was
Mhm.
so funny.
Yeah, we played. It was 2400, I think, with Justin and Jackie, and out of the four, I think we got a 40% on that one.
I do not even remember
We
anything
just
about that
could
game.
not figure that one out.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
do not
Yeah,
remember
we were
much
like-
of that one.
I mean, and they had played it before, and they really like it. But the
Mhm.
one I'm not sure exactly which scenario of it we played.
Mhm.
But yeah, we just
My-
could not wrap our heads around it.
I don't know. I love some of the mystery games that I have the paper, like the one you guys gave us for the ones you
Mhm.
guys gave
Yeah.
us, where I can dig through the files and I'm
Yes.
looking for the clues
Mhm.
and I've got them in my hands.
Yes.
I love those. I don't like the ones, or I shouldn't even say I don't like, that's very strong. I don't get the ones where I just push a button and I have to wait for them to tell me something, but that's not what I wanted to know. I want to know this.
Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah,
But I
that
can't ask them
annoys
that.
me.
That
I-
annoys me. So
I couldn't play this game. Not that we would, because it would be spoilers. But I couldn't play this game on a recording because I would end up being canceled. Because I'm like,
yes.
I get very angry and I start calling these imaginary characters
Yeah.
names.
Yep.
So you're saying a lot of the audio would end up on the cutting room floor? When you
Yes.
edit it.
Yes. So
We got. I
I
just bought
yeah.
2 of the Hunt a Killer self-contained single box game,
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
and those are fun.
Okay.
The single box, they're like $30-$40. You can get them at Target. Those are fun, and you get all this tactile papers
Yes,
and
to get the
And-
paperwork. I love that.
and like clues. Like I think we got like a coaster and a keychain and
Yeah.
random stuff like that to
Oh, interesting.
So those are
Okay,
look
might have to try one of those.
that sort of
Mhm.
thing.
So, but yeah,
Mhm.
no, I like Chronicles of Crime for what it is. I appreciate it for what it is and what it does.
Mhm.
I don't personally get it.
1400 is cool because you're using like visions. You get like these cards that have these really kind of what the heck artwork on it that are visions that your detective type person, your
Are we back?
inspector is getting.
To like Dixit cards with the
Kind of.
weird
Kind
artwork.
of.
Oh boy.
Kind
Kind
of.
of. Well,
They are
kind of, except for
actual
they're
events.
just giving you visions of things, and you will eventually usually run into those characters later in the
Okay,
thing.
so
and-
they
and
actually have some sort of context.
they do have a
eventually.
context. It's not
Okay.
it's not just random esoteric AI artwork or something like
Okay.
that.
And then
That's good.
1900 is
Has
all cryptograms
puzzles,
and
yeah.
puzzles and things like that. And then you get to 2400, and you guys have played it. It's using your
Cybernetic
cybernetic,
connections
yeah,
Yeah.
and
to
stuff.
figure things out, which is fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like that they have like kind of advanced it. You know, they've
Yeah.
taken
Yeah.
the original game and then they've kind of moved on with it into different areas, including, Noir and Redview and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this made my short list. This was kind of honorable mention for me. Did you guys have any other honorable mentions?
Yeah.
I did.
I do.
So go ahead.
Okay, my honorable mentions, I actually had 2. Arc Nova, because I feel like if we could play it more often, it would have been in the top 5. No
Mhm.
doubt about it. I love the game. I don't feel
Yeah.
like we've only played it twice, and I don't feel like I've got a good enough grasp on it yet to
Mhm.
state that it's one of my all-time favorites. but it's right there.
Mhm.
And then, believe it or not, Marvel Legendary.
Mm,
I don't
okay.
know what it is. I love that game.
Mhm.
Greg's looking at me like, what? I really like Marvel Legendary. It's one of those that anytime that you break it out, I want to play. There's so much versatility in it and so many different options. We stopped collecting because we've got so much we'll never play it all.
Right.
So why keep adding unless it's one of our favorite characters? But yeah, those are my two.
Yeah, I only put one. I did a top 100 through that Pud Meeple and then kind of altered everything from there. But the one that got knocked out of my top 5, other than Bruges, was Dinogenics.
Yes.
So yes, this is my all-time favorite dinosaur game,
Yeah.
and Katie's too. If you've watched the last video that we talked about the dinosaur games, so
I actually had to agree with him. It was my favorite of the set we have. Yeah.
Yeah, this
It
is
killed me
more.
to agree
I think
with
it's
him,
more
let me tell ya.
realistic. Dinosaur Island and Dinosaur World is like we decided. It was more cartoonish,
It was yes.
and Dinogenics is more like real world.
Well, and again, that was all part of the artwork. It wasn't even the gameplay; it was the artwork. But I think Dinosaur World. I feel like you just had more options, and there was more danger involved.
Dinogenics. Greg's love of Dinogenics is almost hipster-like. It's like, yeah, there's this game called Dinogenics, but you probably haven't heard of it. It's real underground. Because like you can't find it.
Yeah,
you can't. You're right.
So it's just
we
like
it's
like this. There's this great game, but yeah, you probably never heard of it.
Well, I got news for you. London Cabbie is going to be harder to find than it is.
Oh yeah.
So.
Let's hear my short list. I mean, obviously, we talked about the HEXplore It series, and we talked about Chronicles of Crime series. Those were right there. My other one is Seventh Continent. I really like Seventh Continent. It's another one we don't get to the table nearly as often as we probably could. We've really barely scratched the surface on it.
Yeah. My honorable mentions have already been mentioned. So we got Folklore the Affliction from Greenbrier Games, and then we can also do Middara Unintentional Malum from Succubus Publishing. These are both adventure, story-driven games. The plus with those two, I feel like that if you're anti-app, then you don't need the app to play either of these games. So these are all self-contained. The only reason why they really didn't make the list is because they are a beast to get out and set up.
Alrighty. So that is our top 5 games of all time 2023 version. We'll see how this changes in 2 weeks or
we're gonna
check it out next year.
We'll try it again next year. So for all of us at the Meeple Society, this is Mark. Have yourselves a good one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Darn it!
Some enemies often. I'm a big fan of detective games, and this one really hits it home for me. There are plenty of detective. That's all, folks.